Well, it is very interesting and unique here on the BG Sports Show today. We have our first interview on the show today is a man that has been around the sports world and the acting world, and he's seen a lot of different things. He's done a lot of different things. He's been a part of maybe a small TV show you've heard of called How to Get Away with the Murder. For those of you out there that love maybe the fantasy, he's been a part of Teen Wolf. Plus, he's been a part of so many other things, and I don't ever want to make it seem like those two shows are his claim to fame, but he is a Hollywood actor. He's been doing this longer than I've probably been alive, not to make him sound old, but he's seen a lot of things, and he's a very acclaimed and exciting actor, and he is now here on the BG Sports Show to talk about his new show, a one-man play, Father, Son, and Holy Coach. John Posey joins us here on the BG Sports Show. John, good day to you, sir. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am doing just fine, sir. I'm excited to have you here on the show, and you've got this new show that you have coming out, or you have it out now. It's Father, Son, and Holy Coach, and I'm curious to know, there's an interesting fact about the show right off the bat, is that it's your son that's producing the show. Is that correct?
Yeah, my son is Tyler Posey, who is the star and one of the producers of Teen Wolf. He started out as a child actor, and I had, actually, the first thing he had ever done was come on stage and do this piece with me when I used to tour the country with it. I think we were in Denver, possibly, doing a summer run. He was 5 years old, and he decided, even though it's a one-man show, there's a moment toward the end that's very emotional, sort of moment that ties the whole show together about a father and a son. And he came on stage with me, and he immediately got a big applause, and then he bowed as if he'd been on stage the entire time and upstaged me right away, which is what little kids do.
An actor from the beginning. I love it.
Yes, I knew he was destined for that. So we decided, we had some stuff in our family where my dad passed away, and then Tyler's mom and my wife also passed away in the same year. So the three of us, myself, Tyler, and my other son, Jesse, who's a college baseball pitcher, decided it was time maybe to put this thing back up again. We had sold the movie rights several times. People keep coming to me wanting to buy the rights, and then they're not quite sure what the movie is. So it's one thing to sell the rights. It's an entirely different thing to actually get it made. It's just there's 2 or 3 or 4 steps that all have to come together before they do. And so we're back on that process again. I've come to other people who want to make the movie once again, so maybe it's a good thing that we did bring it back out, because I think the story may be even more relevant than it was when I first put this thing up 20 years ago. And I do it as a one-man show only because that's my skill set. I actually play 20 different people.
Holy cow, okay.
Show. And we're going to launch it again as soon as we get out of L.A. I strictly put it up here just to see if everything still worked, make some tweaks where we thought it needed, get a great production. L.A. is not the greatest place to put up theater because there's 5 million different things to do in this town.
That is true, yes.
It's always a challenge whether you're doing great work or not. So we're beginning the process of bringing it back on the road. Well, I think Middle America would love this piece. It asks the age-old question in sports or even my business: are we defined by our past, our present, or our future? And you have a father who thinks he's defined by his past, such as maybe the last great catch he made in the high school end zone, versus the son who thinks that every mistake, good or bad, leads you to better things and to growth. Having said that, it's a very hysterical 90 minutes of father-son awkwardness that happens all along the way from the age of 6 all the way to present day. And, as I've been touring it for years and years, I had a lot of guys come up and say, "Man, you just told my life story," which I didn't know I was doing when I wrote it. I was just playing with something that meant something to me about my own conflicts with my own dad, and apparently a lot of guys have the same issues. And
I think, as you mentioned, that is something that we see a lot of nowadays, is you never exactly know the story that, you might be the same story that, Joe over there might have had, that, Tim over there may have experienced. And that's the thing. For some folks nowadays, they don't actually always take the time to explain, things about their past. But when they see somebody else stepping out like you're doing and expressing it in a different way, especially with sports too, for some reason sports just has that effect that it brings people together in an entirely new and different dynamic. And you're doing that, and people, as you said, are realizing that and talking to you.
It's a great metaphor, but I've had a great number of women, whether they're younger or older, who come to this play and love it because they're rooting for the kid. They're rooting for the kid to figure his way out and to sort of forge his own direction, his own break the chain and move in his own direction. So it's like I say, the film rights have been sold a number of times, and who knows whether that the industry changes so much that may or may not happen. But it is a piece that, as I've traveled the country, I haven't hit Wisconsin. I think I've been everywhere from let's see, Colorado, Texas, Michigan, Texas 3 or 4 times, Florida, Connecticut, California, Georgia. So I've been I've bounced around, and we may, now that we're sort of done with this process in L.A., bring it back out again, because it truly, first of all, it's unusual that theater nowadays tends to be either a musical or tends to be rather heavier material. It's kind of rare that you would take a father-son sports piece, and it's as if the movie Field of Dreams decided to become a theatrical event.
That was kind of the feeling I was getting from it. Yeah, I was wondering if there was any purposeful ties to that.
It's very much that. I mean, Newt Rockne, the great iconic football coach of a century ago, plays in this story, and he's sort of a ghost-like character. So it's as if you had taken Field of Dreams and decided to make it a theatrical piece, not a musical like Rocky was this summer in New York, but clearly just the story. And then I think eventually the movie of this will happen. I mean, like I say, several times it's come close, and people just at the time, people come and go, and then things kind of disappear and get pushed back in the back shelf. So what I would be doing this time around is trying to have a little more control of that myself, which by that I mean bringing some of the money and the producers together so it does get done.
Now, you're talking about making a movie.
That aside, it's a great, as a theatrical production, it's great all by itself.
Okay, and that's one of the things I was going to ask about, though. You're talking about, in terms of making a movie, trying to kind of transitioning here into that. Is this something that, I'm assuming it's not going to stay as a one-act, or a one-man scenario, I guess. I'm assuming there's a multi...
I wrote this, it changes. In fact, the story changes. I wrote the screenplay many years ago.
Okay,
Sony,
that's what I was wondering.
They bought the rights right away the night I opened it the first time, and they just could never quite figure what the story is, and sort of we know now. And I've been through this before. I've written 7 sports films, some for the studios, some that didn't go, some that got bogged down on rights issues. For example, this movie Eddie the Eagle that's out right now, I was the first writer on that project.
Really? Okay.
But I got into legal issues where there was another version of the script, and apparently Eddie Edwards had sold his rights to somebody else, and so eventually Disney, who I had written it for, had to step back. And so now, unfortunately, the movie that just came out is not mine. So it's like somebody who stole my girlfriend, and now they're parading her around in front of me to add injury to insult or insult to injury. So but that happens. There's always but
part of the business.
I did get a film made that called Legendary, which is a high school wrestling film about 4 or 5 years ago. That did very well. That was my film that I wrote and produced.
You had a nice little. Maybe people may have heard of him. A guy named John Cena was in that movie.
Yeah, that was weird how that happened. First it was at the studio, and then it dropped down, and somebody called me. A friend of mine said, "Hey, I'm the head of production for WWE Films. And we want to make your movie right away." So we reached out and got some great actors, Danny Glover and Patty Clarkson, to play the mom. And since it was a WWE film property, they wanted to bring in John Cena, and that wasn't quite what I had envisioned, but it worked out fine. It's a good film. It's had some nice run on Netflix and Showtime. And it still is out there, and so that's kind of the stuff I write. So if you were to see Father, Son, and Holy Coach on the screen, it would be in the same vein as Legendary if anybody saw it.
Yes, yep. That's interesting.
But
now, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so because of Legendary, because of the different success that you've had, are you coming to this point now in your career where you've been on screen, you've obviously done a ton of different things, whether it's been for TV, whether it's been for movies. Are you in that point now where you kind of want to transition to more of the behind-the-scenes stuff and kind of let somebody else take the forefront?
Yeah, possibly. When you get to be my age, now I'm 60, I play a little bit younger on stage because it's a very physical play.
I wouldn't have guessed it by how much you're jumping around and moving around on stage.
Yeah, I'm all over the stage, so I have to be in very good shape. I was a wrestler for years. I think once you're a wrestler, always a wrestler. So
okay, sure.
I don't know how many years I get left in the play, but out here in Hollywood, the work starts to slow down, obviously, as it's geared to a much younger audience. So I am doing that. In fact, I'm writing a TV pilot for the first time, simply because maybe for the first time ever, it's actually easier to get TV done than film.
Interesting. Okay.
And so I'm sort of getting away, abandoning what my model was for years, which was writing these smaller films, which I had some success in selling, even if they didn't get made. And actually working on a pilot that's completely off the sports field.
Interesting.
And we'll see what happens with that. And I did half a season last year of How to Get Away with Murder. I do a lot of guest work on television, smaller films usually. So I stay busy, but I'm actually happier writing. It's harder, it's kind of
Sure.
an isolated, solitary field when you're, spending the day by yourself writing, but there's more gratification at the end of the day. And so, very possibly, until they throw me out of Hollywood, I try to keep all doors open. I do voiceover work. I used to do a ton of commercials as an actor. Nice career in television. I would love to, quite frankly, and I think it might happen. I'm in negotiation now to really take this show on the road, which means you sort of have to plan for 3 or 4 years out.
Yes.
And you find yourself in towns all over the country doing weekends with this piece. And I may, since my kids are out of the house and, nobody's demanding I be home at 5 o'clock, I may suddenly find myself in a position to do exactly that. So I think that's sort of where we're headed right now with this piece, because the reviews have been so good in L.A., and we love where we are, and we've upgraded this thing to a 2016 show of fathers and sons. I think we're about ready to do just that. That could be my thing for the next few years.
And I say, at the end of the day, too, you've only got one life to live, so why not make the most of it, right?
Yeah, and it's fun to do that. When you're in L.A., as I said in the beginning of this conversation, you spend so much time marketing this piece. Well,
yes.
When you go on the road, you let them do the marketing. Let me come in and be this guy on stage who's going to present you a great night of theater of fathers and sons and football and some storytelling. And I probably shouldn't say football, even though that's a main piece. It's really about just it's family dynamics. Football just happens to be a great metaphor for life, as any sport. It could be fencing, it could be horseback riding, but I've chosen something. And coming from the South, I came out of Florida and Georgia.
Okay, sure.
So there's a real color in the Southern storytelling.
Yes, I'm from Florida as well. I understand that.
Oh, you're from Florida?
I am. I'm from Naples, Florida.
Oh, Naples. I'm across the coast. I started out in Boca Raton, ended up in Gainesville, and then ended up in Atlanta. So I got farther north I went, the more south I went. You know what that
That's
means.
what I've told people. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, if you're in South Florida, it's the north. If you're in North Florida, it's the south.
Exactly. So I told people, I'm so far south in Florida that I'm in Boston, basically.
That's exactly right. I'm from the ultimate town of Long Island. It's called Boca Raton.
Yes, yep, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing people don't understand about Florida at times, too.
No, they don't, which is why I created this town in Georgia, just to make sure there was no confusion. And so the whole town is a fictitious town that could be anywhere from Texas
it's
all
what
the
you
way
perceive
over
it
to North
be.
Carolina.
Yep.
Yeah, so we just made up a town that could be anywhere in the South, and I got very attracted to Southern storytelling and the skills and the color and the sort of the legendary status people put onto things. So it becomes a very, very funny story from a kid's point of view of growing up with a kind of a fanatical dad who wants a do-over in life, and we all know those guys. So that's why it works, and it works everywhere. I've never done this anywhere where people said, "Hey, I don't get it." It's probably more Middle America than L.A., but it's worked in New York, it's worked in L.A. The reviews you're reading right now are all coming out of Los Angeles.
Okay.
Where you have a lot of very progressive theater that deals with very progressive stuff, and this is just right down the heart, Middle America, fathers and sons, and how do we figure this out? And so I know it. I know it works, and now for the first time, I think it'd be actually fun just to maybe close up shop here for a while and get on the road and see what happens. So that's sort of the negotiation we're doing right now. So we'll see. I better do it soon because, like I said, man, I just turned 60, so you never know what's around the corner.
And as I said too, from watching from all the reviews and all the videos that we've seen as well about it, you wouldn't have guessed that you're a day over 45, honestly, John. So well, thank you.
Well, I'll tell you what. Thank you. In this play, I actually play both wrestlers and lose. That may be the only time in history you would see a guy do that on stage. So.
There's no ties in wrestling, and that just as a side note too, I was that kid growing up that I would play football or basketball by myself in the backyard or something, and my mom would always ask me, "Oh, did you win today?" And because I would try to play two different teams, and I'm like, "No, I lost today," and she would always she knew what I was doing, but she would make fun of me at times, be like, "How do you lose playing against yourself?" I'd be like, "Look, Mom, you weren't there. You don't understand. It was complicated."
It's a great question. I sympathize and empathize with you both on that one. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, awesome. Well, John, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule today. Where can people find more information about your upcoming show? And if they happen to be in the LA area as well, what other little details do you have for us about the show?
Yeah, if you're here for 3 more weeks, I believe we close March 20th. I don't think we'll extend because I'm kind of anxious to get the ball rolling for a summer run elsewhere. But if you're in LA March 20th, probably the best thing is to go to the website, which is holycoach.net. It has all the information about when and where, or they can also look me up at johnposey.com. But with regards to the show itself, holycoach.net is the best website. So if they're in LA and want to see this piece, all the ticket information is there, and then hopefully we'll be closer to your neighborhood fairly soon.
I look forward to it. Milwaukee, I think, would welcome your show with open arms, John. So thank you so much.
I think it'd be great, and then I could eat some of the great Milwaukee food while I'm there.
Hey, exactly. We've got some fantastic food, and probably get you. The first round would be on me as well, John.
Yeah, no, I would love to come there. I've been through there. I can't remember. It seems to me I shot something in Milwaukee, and I'm trying to remember what it was. And loved it there. So I'd love to, probably more so in the summer than the winter, since I am from Florida.
Yeah, don't come in the winter time. It's about as unpredictable as a Florida afternoon. So, well, John.
Oh, yes. I'm glad you said that, because I know that very well too.
Exactly. Yeah. So we got more in common than you think, John. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today, John. We appreciate you here stopping by on the BG Sports Show. For those of you that are out in the LA area, go and check out John's show. And if you do end up coming to the Midwest or in the neck of the woods, John, we'll have to connect and maybe get you on the show live as well if it works out.
Yeah. I hope so, and I hope that happens. That's the plan for right now, is to get us out there. So thanks for letting me on the show. I appreciate talking with you.